2 years ago, the name Arthur Fleck hit Gotham like a hurricane.
The trial of the century.
They believe Arthur Fleck to be some kind of martyr. Well, he's not. There's a monster.
When you're smiling, when you're smiling,
When I first saw Joker, when I saw you,
the whole world smiles with you.
for once in my life, I didn't feel so alone anymore.
When you're laughing,
Hey, howdy, hey, you insane people. Wolfman47 here to give you a review of Joker. And Joker, I'm going to assume it's pronounced Filet Ado, but I know it stands for Madness for Two, so yeah. So, I've just seen the second Joker film, and I won't go into detail about the Joker character, because you all know about him, you've all heard about him, and I have done a character study video of him last year, I believe. So yeah, you will know a great deal about him. But anyway, so the first Joker film, it was originally envisioned as just one standalone film featuring Mr. Phoenix. I can't pronounce his first name, so I'll just call him Mr. Phoenix as the Joker, in a sort of different story that tries to reinvent his origin story. And originally the plan was for Jared Leto's Joker to have his own standalone film, but he didn't get it in the end, and probably just as well, because yeah, not many of us were that keen on him as Joker in Suicide Squad, the first one that is anyway. So so we got Joker, and it was originally envisioned as a part of a series of standalone DC films that would be about different characters that would otherwise not get their own film or series of films. Basically an attempt by Warner Brothers and DC to reinvent their origin stories to be more attractive to an audience that would otherwise not be that interested in hearing about these characters. Which, in the case of Joker, it was probably designed as a way to sort of be like Phoenix's other films, where it's a bit of an art house film, but allows him to play twisted demonic characters, as he has done previously in other films. So we get the first Joker film, and he's playing this entertaining character called Arthur Fleck, who is basically an entertainer that has big goals in mind, and eventually becomes this character that he calls the Joker, who kind of succumbs to insanity and everything, and he makes a big name for himself, but ultimately does sort of lead Gotham into a series of crimes that he commits, where he's killing people, doing all sorts of different things, and eventually the cops get him and send him away to prison. Now, the first film I did enjoy because it was a very different DC film to what I've seen before, and I'm kind of glad that they decided to finally give us a film that was basically a straight up supervillain film, because for too long we've had a lots of superhero films and a few films where it's anti-heroes, but we never really had a film where it's about a villain as such. And it was kind of nice to see a different kind of Joker that was maybe more vulnerable, more sympathetic, and all this other stuff because of trauma that he's had in his past. And it was just nice to see a different origin story to him, rather than the same old origin story where it's a random criminal that somehow ends up in Ace Chemicals and Batman kicks him into a pool of acid, because that's basically the classic way of how the Joker was created, whereas nowadays we're getting different versions of it, and it's great to see these different versions come to life, whether we like them or don't like them. And for me, with this first film, I actually did like it. I think Mr. Phoenix, anything I've seen him in, he's always the best part about the films that I see him in, because he's always great in what he does, even if it's a really bad film. And the same with Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro doesn't play as big a role in this film, but he does play a chat show host, and that whole scene with the chat show reminds me of a moment in the comic book The Dark Knight Returns, in which Joker is brought on stage, and he basically makes this big massive joke that he's going to kill everybody in the room, and then he ends up killing everybody in the room, and that's not quite what happened in this Joker film, but I can definitely tell it was inspired by that particular moment in the comics. And I think is overall as a film, it's a really good film. It reinvents the character well. Doesn't give us a typical origin story like it's done before. It does kind of include Batman stuff in there, but I kind of like how they just keep it subtle and not make it a major focus. You still get some things that appear that are to do with the Wayne Tech family and everything. So yeah. So bearing in mind that this Joker film isn't too old, but it was released quite some years ago. It still holds up pretty well and still feels pretty relevant given the sort of crimes that happen in America and so forth. And I did get and I kind of understand that some cinemas were not showing it because it was released during the time where shootings were happening, or unless I've got that wrong, I don't know. I just read it somewhere, so yeah. But anyway, the first Joker film gets a four stars because it's a really good film, like Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker. And I just like how very different it is to other superhero / supervillain films that we've seen. And as I say, it's probably the first time I've actually seen a proper full-on supervillain film where it's not a villain that's turned good. It's actually a villain it's actually a character that was good but then turned bad and stays bad. So it was nice. It was nice and fresh and everything. So yeah. So that's the first Joker film. Now for the second Joker film, and yeah, I'm not gonna deny that it was a film that started off really, really well, but then went downhill from there. There's a reason why lots of people often say that they prefer films to be just standalone and leave it be, and definitely for the guy that made the first Joker film, Todd something rather, he definitely wanted it to be just the one film. He never wanted to. There was never any plans for it to have a sequel, but it ended up having a sequel anyway because I guess the studio was interested in bringing Harley Quinn into the mix. Obviously, as we know, Harley Quinn was never part of the original Joker's origin stories because she was introduced in Batman the Animated Series and then became mainstream from that point on. But in this second Joker film, I like the animated sequence at the beginning. I like Brendan Gleeson's acting. I like Phoenix's acting, and I do think, and having seen Lady Gaga act before, it was nice to see her not just act but also sing in the film as well. Obviously, she sang before in A Star Is Born, which just happens to also be distributed by Warner Brothers. And to be honest, the musical numbers in this film do kind of come at random. Like they come in between the sort of major parts of the film, and it kind of feels a little bit distracting and doesn't really, at least in my opinion, it doesn't really do much to sort of drive the plot forward, other than just give the filmmakers an excuse to show off Lady Gaga's singing prowess. Personally, she wouldn't have been my first choice to play Harley Quinn, but now that we've got two live-action Harley Quinns, it's nice that we can finally kind of compare the two, because for a long time, we've always come to know Margot Robbie as the sort of live-action Harley Quinn, and to be honest, she's the best. She's still the best live-action Harley Quinn. Looks aside, she's still the best one of the two. But that's not to say Lady Gaga doesn't have class. She does bring a bit of class to her version of Harley Quinn in a way. And, yeah. And I do kind of like how in this film, while I would say the musical numbers do feel a bit distracting and don't really drive the plot forward in any shape or form, it's kind of nice to see these two people singing and just see this sort of chemistry between Joker and Harley Quinn develop, because we didn't really see much of that in the first Suicide Squad film, so it's kind of nice there in a way. But much of the film is basically going to court, things happening in the prison, and yeah, it's basically you could pretty much see it as a typical cop drama series in which characters just do stuff. And often in this second film, they do keep sort of fading out. It's kind of like it's making out that it wants to be shown on TV more than be at the cinema, because the amount of times it keeps fading out, it's like It's like it's a commercial break, then move on to next film. Commercial break, move on to next part. Yeah, I did not like the second film that much. I thought it started off really strong, you know, with the animated sequence at the beginning and the sort of score that we get, and really setting the tone and everything. But then it kind of just went downhill the second it started putting in musical numbers at random, not really driving the plot forward. And even with some of the characters that you see in this, now, don't get me wrong, I think Harvey Dent in films I've seen before this is good, but I didn't like the guy that played him in this one. It just comes across as having a very punchable face. He's not annoying by any means. I should stress he's not annoying, but the actor, to me, the way he acts like him and all that, he comes across as a character you just want to punch in the face. I'm not saying that I would support Phoenix's Joker in any shape or form, but yeah. And honestly, by the time the film starts going downhill and starts becoming a bit of a bore fest, the only thing that really gets me liking it again, albeit only briefly, is a scene towards the end, which I won't give away too much, but it basically just comes out of nowhere. Soon as the verdict in the court is called out, it just comes completely out of nowhere, and then the ending just kind of drags with a couple more songs. And yeah, so yeah, a good first film and not so good second film, but far from a bad film, because it does have a few strong performances, and obviously it does have a few people that me and Clankso could do like seeing on the screen, including Phoenix himself. So yeah, so I'll give Joker Folie à Deux 3 stars. 3 stars because it had a strong start, just went very downhill after the strong start that it had, and I kind of wished it was made a bit better and actually had at least a few original songs being sung, and actually sort of be treated as a musical rather than just be a straight up sequel that happens to have musical numbers that's kind of starting to mind, because it reminds me of this other film I saw called Music, which me and Clankso are both in agreement is very, very bad film, where it had musical numbers that came out of the blue at random and just did nothing to drive the plot forward. And it's the same here, but at least with the musical numbers here, they are music that we know, that people know and like, and they are actually sung really well. It's just they feel out of place and just don't drive the plot forward. And this is coming from a filmmaker that does make good stuff, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to sequels, he's just not that good at it. Like the last time I saw a sequel from this Todd guy, it was The Hangover Part 2, and we all know how that played out. It was basically a rehash of the first film, just with a different character being married and a different setting for all the shenanigans that happen. So yeah, that's what I think of the Joker films. Obviously, as with all things I talk about in these Let's Talk videos, do share what your own thoughts about these things in the comments below or some other means. But other than that, thanks so much for watching. I'm shirtless because I was coming out of the cinema and it was very wet. Well, actually no, it wasn't too bad. And then kept walking, and then I got a bit sweaty, so that's why I'm not wearing much at the moment. I've got a friend that keeps complaining that I keeps trying to bin up. I'm like, I have to do it because otherwise some of you guys will feel a bit unnerved about it. But anyway, so thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. I'll do videos like these where I review stuff and also talk about other things pop culture in the form of these vlogs. And I also do gameplay videos, let's play videos. The difference between that, let's plays I do commentary on, and gameplay videos I don't do commentary on. It's just straight up gameplay, nothing else, with some added stuff to it. And I also do random shorts as well, usually upload at various times during the day in the BST/GMT time zone. And if you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to share with your pals or inmates, do so. Leave a comment if you want to. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And any trauma that you have growing up, remember there is always help out there. You don't have to go insane. You don't have to kill people to get what you want. Even if it feels great to have that sort of freedom and revenge, whatever. Just, try and get help, because there is definitely help out there. So yeah. And if you do fall in love with someone that's in prison, maybe just sort of rethink your life choices before pursuing that relationship any further. Just some friendly advice from a YouTuber that's currently sitting at 740 subscribers at the time of doing this video. But not that I'd want any more or anything when I say that. I would like more, but yeah. Okay. All right. Toodles.